Good day, everyone. How are you today? I'm hoping you are all in excellent health and ready to hear our discussion. So let's begin. Hello, we are Group 8, and today's discussion is to talk about the issues that arise between individuals and organizations. At the end of this chapter, we should be able to understand a model of legitimacy of organizational influence, how rights to privacy are interpreted, what are the bases for discrimination at work, using discipline to change behaviors, quality of work life, pros and cons of job enrichment, mutual individual organization responsibilities, and lastly, whistleblowing as a pro social behavior. In Chapter 10, we will talk about some of the ways that organizational rules and practices have an impact on people, putting demands and opportunities on them, as well as offering opportunities for them. Discussion includes privacy rights, drug use regulations, unfair hiring practices, and disciplinary measures. Then we will introduce job enrichment as a key organizational technique for enhancing employees' quality of work life. Finally, we will go over the obligations that people have to their organizations. Starting to the areas of legitimate organizational influence. Achieving goals and objectives is a common trait shared by both individuals and organizations. Organizations are instruments that individuals use to further their aims, and people are tools that organizations use to reach their goals. They interact socially with one another in a reciprocal manner, benefiting from each other's contributions as well. In some circumstances, they do end up at odds. This case is when their definitions and perspectives on the bounds of legitimate influence diverge, conflict is likely to develop. Organizational influence are the characteristic or attributes of an organization and the impact they have on the people and work completed within. Other issues can also be justified in the same way. Each partner should be content with the power up dynamics and the relationship as long as the parties agree on the agreement to avoid conflict. Areas of agreement and disagreement. Under job conduct, it only means that the employee agreed to follow the rules being implemented with the organization, such as tidiness of one's office and one's working hours. It shows high legitimacy influence. Also, personal activities of the job. Examples, attending church, maintaining charged account, and vacation. It shows low legitimacy influence. However, there are managers who disagree in some areas specifically of the job conduct as it can affect the reputation of the organization if it is not properly addressed. For example, using the company's product, using the competitor's product at work, in which it shows lack of support and such. Model of legitimacy of organizational influence. Conduct on the job or outside of it, as well as conduct related to the job or not related to the job, are the two main variables in the model. As you can see in the model, if you can, I guess, it shows that high legitimacy is generally agreed upon when behavior is related to and taken place while on the job. As a task, relationship to an act grows more ambiguous, legitimacy tends to lose credibility. It raises problems of legitimacy if an act is performed while on the work, yet is unrelated to the task, like playing cards during lunch. In general, depending on the circumstance, only moderate legitimacy is backed. There is no single law protecting the rights of employees while they are off work. However, there are areas of the law, such as discrimination, drug testing, and harassment laws, protect an employee's off-duty conduct. And each different off-duty conduct must be looked at carefully. Business has very little control over how employees behave outside of work. Without a doubt, the employer has little motive to intervene when the behavior is unrelated to the job. On the other hand, some activities performed outside of the workplace could have an impact on the employer, raising issues of organizational influence. The essential relationship is that there is more support for organizational influence on the employee when one behaves in a more job related manner when not at work. The next topic will be discussed by Ms. Delgado.
Good day, everyone. I am Daniela Aling A. Delgado, and I will discuss the rights of privacy of employees. So, rights of privacy are related to organizational invasion of the private life of a person and unauthorized release of confidential information about the person that may cause emotional suffering to the person. Employers need to protect their employees' identity, dignity, feelings, sexual orientation, and etc. Having said that, if the employers fail to protect the privacy of their employees, there are conflicts that may arise if the company invades their employees' privacy. There are business activities that may involve employees' rights of privacy, and these are the lie detectors, personality tests, location trackers, medical examinations, treatment of alcoholism, monitoring of employee lifestyle, treatment of drug abuse, surveillance devices, computer data banks, confidential records, genetic screening or biometric data, and inquiry into personal relationships. Later on, I will discuss some of these activities for better understanding. Based on a research study, there are four situations that should be minimized to prevent an employee's invasion of privacy. And these are avoiding the use of personal information, avoid having no permissions, and avoid unfavorable consequences, and avoid releasing information externally. Employers develop policy guidelines to protect their employees' privacy. This can be a guide in handling some unusual situation that we develop regarding privacy. The following are the guidelines on privacy that organizations are using. Relevance. Only necessary information of the employee is recorded. In recency, obsolete or outdated information of employee should be removed. In notice, no personal data that an employee is unaware of should be used. Fiduciary duty. The keeper of the information is accountable for keeping it secure. Confidentiality. Information should be released to whom needed it and with employees' permission. Due process. If recorded appear to be inaccurate, the employee should be free to question it. And lastly, the protection of the psyche. Employees' inner self should not be invaded except with prior consent. Next is surveillance devices. This is connected to protection of the psyche since employers should avoid having surveillance devices to private places like locker rooms, bathroom, or secret listening devices as this may invade personal stuff of an employee. An example of secret surveillance that is permitted and are known by the employees that they are being photographed or captured are hidden cameras that take photographs in case of threats, robberies, theft, or it is like CCTVs. For example, yung mga bank and convenience store na may may mga hidden CCTVs that may be helpful in case of robberies. Although the employees will be seen to the camera, hindi yun infringement of their privacy since they know that they are being photographed. Hindi hidden sa mga employees yung camera, and yung purpose ng hidden camera is to help and prevent crimes. There are two other forms of surveillance devices, and one of these is the electronic sensor badges. It is a microchip that can be clipped on ID cards that if the employee wears this can monitor their location. So, sa image, example, na nakabit sa employee yung tracker and may mga tracker din sa wall. Diyan malalaman kung yung real-time location ng employee. And this microchip is best to use in construction site if may problem na ma-encounter. They can locate their employees easily. While the second one is the electronic monitoring. This refers to a surveillance done via computer or phone. An example of this is remote observation of the screen of the computer, reading employees, emails, and voice recording system. Example nito yung mga BPO company, virtual assistant working remotely na may app tracker like Hubstaff app that can track the time and monitor the employee. In this app, nakikita ng employers anong ginagawa nila sa monitor na employees nila. Or there are cases na every 10 minutes, na-screen capture yung monitor ng employees nila for them to know if they are working effectively. While on the other hand, the cyber surfing emerged since there is an availability of internet while working. This is an activity that employees use their time in work to surf on the web for their personal interests, like using their most of their time scrolling on their Facebook, watch YouTube, play games, etc. And this will result to unproductive time while working. And this behavior of employees is called cyber loafers or cyber slackers. However, employees who are being monitored result in a higher level of psychological and emotional distress such as headaches, back pain, extreme anxiety, etc. To prevent these, thorough explanation and notifying the employees that the use of this electronic surveillance is to promote performance improvement and involvement of employees in setting up a fair system within the organization. Next business activity that may involve employee rights of privacy is honesty testing. Since employee theft is a major problem in businesses, especially in the US, honesty testing using polygraph or lie detector is used to record and provide evidence of lying. This is used by businesses as a tool in honesty testing of their employees. However, the Employee Polygraph Protection Act was passed by the Congress in 1988 in US. This law prohibits most private employers from using detector tests either for pre-employment screening or during the course of employment. The law was passed because of the validity and invasion of privacy issues regarding the polygraph, since yung validity ng polygraph is questionable and it may false identify innocent people. Another honesty test is called a paper and pencil test that are also known as integrity tests. This test is to get the respondents to disclose information about his or her previous or prospective honesty. There are two forms of these, and these are the overt test and personality-based test, wherein overt test inquire about attitude toward theft, while personality-based test indirectly identifies dishonest individuals by their scores on selected items in the test to be a criterion for theft. Questionable din yung validity nito since the company may face legal action once they reject an applicant only based on integrity test scores. Next is treatment of alcoholism. Since alcoholism is a major medical and job problem and most employees naman are into alcoholic drinks, employers develop policies and programs that will deal with the problem without endangering rights of privacy. Alcoholic employees result in absenteeism, poor work, and lost productivity that may cause employers more cost. The result for the company to come up with programs about the treatment of alcoholism is that the firm and employees have a working relationship. Success of an employee can save the employee and a citizen. And lastly, the job appears to be the best environment for supporting recovery because a job helps an alcoholic retain a self-image as a useful person in society. And the figure demonstrates the program for treatment of employees who are abusers of alcohol and other drugs. This diagram shows that the company is willing to help them in their problems. So, in this diagram, isa lang ito sa mga program na pwedeng gawin ng employers. Like, supervisors initiates actions. If problem is solved, then good. If not, supervisors along with the employee that has a problem will meet a counselor. If problems still continue, then the counselor will recommend treatment. And if treatment fails, that employee will be terminated. Some employees may choose to refuse the treatment, but if unkind behavior continues that affect their work, they can be terminated. Another problem is drug abuse because this may cause severe problems to society, employers, and employees. Drug abuse can be disastrous in some jobs like pilot, doctors, operators, etc. Mm. Abuse of drugs also can result in theft, increase in absentees, accidents rate, etc. This resulted in passing the law in the US about the Drug-Free Workplace Act in 1988. This law requires employers or agencies to provide a drug-free workplace as a precondition of receiving contract grant from federal agency. The test may be done on a periodic schedule, administered randomly, or given only when there is a reason to suspect an employee. In some scenarios that resulted in positive drug testing caused the employers to suspend, or some job applicants were rejected, and results for the drug testing to become controversial since the test might be inaccurate because employees might be incorrectly identified as users just because of their pills or prescription drugs they took that may produce false positive results in drug testing. And further investigation and repeated drug testing will support innocence to the employee, but their reputation and self-esteem may already occur to employees. This may also result in invasion of privacy since some employees want to keep their medical conditions private. And impairment testing may be a possible solution to the problems about drug testing since yung impairment testing ay isang method lang that consists only of a brief motor skills test that is performed on a computer, and this test is only like playing video game. An example of companies that have marketed impairment testing system that employers use is ambulatory monitoring, Bose Langley Technology, and etc. And Ambulatory monitoring is a manufacturing impairment testing system for medical purposes. Bose Langley technology offers system to test for mental impairment. Next is genetic testing. It is another problem regarding invasion of privacy rights because this allows physicians to use medical tests to accurately predict whether an employee has illness or has a harmful substance in his or her body. This is a more aggressive tool that a genetic monitoring since genetic monitoring only identifies harmful substances in the workplace and examines it for the effect and provide corrective actions to these problems. There is also positive use of genetic testing information like transferring employees who are under influence to other work areas where they will not be exposed to some harmful substances. And genetic testing can provide health warnings and develop protective measures. While yung negative side ng genetic testing ay kapag yung information will be used para i-discriminate yung employee para mag-resign si employee to minimize the firm's future health costs in the benefits of employees having their health cards or will be a great challenge to individual privacy if a company identifies those employees who have excessive problems. And lastly, sexual harassment may also be an issue that invades the privacy of the employee. Um, it is a discriminatory according to the state guidelines, and sexual harassment is a violation of a person's personal rights and an offense to human dignity. To prevent this kind of action, employers develop guidelines and training programs to educate and protect their employees. If there are no preventive programs in an organization, employers may be responsible and liable for damages done to employees. This is also applicable to employees who have diseases and they have the right to maintain their medical privacy and it should not be used without the permission of the employee. That's all for my report. Next is all about discipline that will be discussed by Ms. Akan.
Discipline. Discipline is the management action to enforce organizational standards. It is one of the most challenging areas, especially in the personnel department. Why? This is because in the personnel department, they are the ones who communicate with the employees, establish training, and even counsel them if needed. It is challenging on their part also, as they make sure that they investigate both external and internal factors contributing to indiscipline, implement courses of actions, and evaluate the effectiveness of their decisions to address the indiscipline. There are two types of discipline. These are preventive and corrective discipline. Preventive discipline is an action taken to encourage employees to follow standards and rules. The purpose of preventive discipline is to encourage employees' self-discipline. It is a type of discipline action that is used to enforce from preventing the employees to violate or deviate the regulations and rules that have been set up by the organization. This type of discipline usually used to prohibit the employees from attempting to undertake some activities that are contrary to the policies of the company. Example, when selecting an employee, the manager should make sure that the employee goals are in congruence with organizational goals. Also, training and development of employees to ensure that they adapt themselves to the job requirements to deliver good performance. Then, the management should clearly state that disciplinary procedures to the employee and clear any doubts that employee may about the employee's policies or procedures of the organization. Constructive feedback is also important because it should be provided to the employees as and when deemed necessary. Communication is essential aspect for preventive discipline to be effective. Employees should feel free to communicate their problems to the management through an open door policy. Frequent meetings between management and employees should be held to help the employees share their problems, concerns, and ideas within the management. Next is corrective discipline. It is an action that follows infraction of a rule. Infraction means breaking of a law, rule, or agreement. The purpose of corrective discipline is to seek to discourage further infraction so that future acts will be in compliance with standards. It is a type of discipline action that is used to enforce from punishing the employees that violate or deviate the regulations and rules of the company. The essence of this discipline is to execute or strengthen the sanctions on employees who are urged for discouraging the reappearance of the inappropriate actions which might happen among others in the future. Example is warning or suspension with or without pay. Objectives of disciplinary action. First is to reform the offender. This only means to make changes or to assist offenders in giving up their immoral or illegal behavior. Next is to deter others from similar actions. It only means to warn or prevent others from doing the same thing. Lastly is to maintain consistent, effective group standards. There are managers who apply the progressive discipline approach. Progressive discipline means there are stronger penalties for repeated offense. The purpose of progressive discipline is to give an employee an opportunity for self-correction before more serious penalties are applied. It also gives management time to work with an employee on a counseling basis to help correct infractions such as unauthorized absences. Progressive discipline is also a process of using increasingly severe steps or measures when an employee fails to correct a problem after being given a reasonable opportunity to do so. It is a kind of discipline that contains heavier sanctions towards those employees who are misbehaviors in the working environment, compared to preventive discipline and corrective discipline. Examples of these are inability to meet deadlines, excessive absences, arguing with coworkers, harassment, violence, and such. In progressive discipline system, it covers verbal and written warning, 3 day suspension from work, 1 week suspension, or it may lead to dismissal. Every employee in organization is deserved to receive the treatment, work, reward, and punishment equally and fairly. Discipline ensures individuals maintain silence at workplace and work as a single unit with their team members to achieve organization goals and objectives. The next topic about quality of work life will be reported by Ms. Bakal.
Hi there, good morning everyone. I'm April Rosette C. Bacol, and I'll be the one to discuss quality of work life. And as we progress with the topic, let us first define what does quality of work life means. So, yeah, quality of work life, this basically refers to the favorableness or unfavorableness of the total job environment for people. Let us focus on the word here, quality. So, does it meet a certain standard or a certain measurement of a condition? Do employees like it? Do they not like it? So, yeah, it's basically the favorableness or unfavorableness of the entire workplace or the entire environment. So it's also a value-based process since it aims to meet the enhanced effectiveness of the entire organization as well as to improve the quality of life at work of the employees. So these programs are made or established and implemented because it's a way to develop jobs and working conditions, which will help not just the employees but as well as the entire organization in the long run. So It includes development of the employee skills, reduction of occupational stress, and development of more cooperative labor and management relationship. Some of the programs in here includes, for example, open communication, job security, and satisfying careers, and then caring supervisor, incentives, benefits. So that's about it. It's to improve both the job and the working condition. So next is sorry, job specialization and simplification. So this is very popular in the early 20th century. This means that to cut down the cost or lower down the cost, they use unskilled workers. So these unskilled workers are easily trained to do small tasks but repetitive part of each job. So this resulted to higher turnover, meaning a lot of employees quit in the long run, and then absenteeism, declines in quality, and alienated workers. And by alienated workers, this is more of workers who feels that they are separate from themselves and from the workplace or from other people because they feel like they are more of an instrument to the entire production. So yeah, they feel separate or they feel far from the workplace and with the people itself. So yeah, and moving forward, actually a lot of workers, especially today, are already changing. So they became, yes, more educated, more fluent, more independent. That's the reason why there is a QWL programs that's being established and implemented. Employers, sorry, and the management had two reasons right now to redesign the jobs and the working conditions. First, it's to uh, focus on the human needs of their employees, and then next to it is because a lot of employees are changing. They have their needs and aspiration as a person and as an individual. Employees today actually is reaching for the higher order needs. As for Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, it's basically the social, esteem, and self actualization needs. So that's the reason or the basis of the employers and the entire management to establish this quality of work life programs. So yeah, next to it is the humanized work through QWL. So here, the reason as well to redesign the jobs is for the jobs to have the attributes likable or desired by the employees or the people, their prospective employees, and to redesign the organizations as well in order for the employees to have the environment that they desire or they deserve actually to work into. Um, Close attention to QWL provides a more humanized work environment, meaning their skills, their knowledge weren't simply used, but it should be developed moving forward so that they can improve themselves, their skill set, their knowledge professionally and personally. So yeah, it's not just being used; it's also being developed. Finally, it should contribute to, or at least leave unimpaired workers' abilities to perform in other life roles. Because actually, we are just employees. We are also citizens of the society. And some of us is students, and there might be some parents out there already. So it's to um, not just being solely an employee. It's also to perform other responsibilities and priorities in life. So with QWL programs, it's to improve the balance of your work and your life as well. Okay, so now let's differentiate job enlargement and job enrichment. So let's start with job enlargement because job scope actually has two dimensions, which is the breadth and the depth. So job breadth, this is the number of different tasks an individual is directly responsible for, meaning it can range from very narrow, which is like one task, but it is done repetitively, to wide, which is several tasks or a wider variety of duties. So with job enlargement, employees that has very narrow job breadth are now given a wider variety of duties in order to reduce their monotony. So by reducing monotony, this just means like reducing the tedious repetition or a routine. So how will employees attend to the wider variety of duties assigned to them? So this this now includes job rotation, which means it involves periodic assignment of an employee to completely different sets of job activities. Meaning, for them or in order for them to perform all of the variety of duties that was given to them, they attend to different tasks periodically or on the assigned time or date, as long as they can perform that specific jobs or that specific duties. Job enrichment, on the other hand, this is a different approach. So it's not the breadth, like the multiple tasks or like one task at a time. It's to add motivators, to make it more rewarding, to make the job more fun, to make the job more exciting. This is actually developed by Frederick Herzberg, and it seeks to add depth to a job by giving workers more control, responsibility, and discretion over how their job is performed. Note that it doesn't mean that the job enlargement and job enrichment is different from one another, is it cannot be combined. So actually these two approaches can be blended. It depends on the management, depends on the organization, by both expanding the number of tasks and adding more motivators for a two-pronged attempt to improve QWL. So basically, this is just to differentiate enlargement to enrichment. And it really depends on the company or the organization that you're working with. Actually, the purpose of job rotation is not just to like burden the employee by giving them multiple tasks within a period of time. It's also to develop their skills, their skill set, their knowledge. Maybe they'll be able to observe themselves, that they might be better at things like this, at tasks assigned to them differently. So it's not just to burden an employee, but also to improve themselves and to develop themselves with other tasks that was given to them. Okay, so how can we apply job enrichment? So what are the benefits as well? So let's start. For individuals, it's growth, self-actualization, job satisfaction. For organization, it is intrinsically motivated employees, better employee performance, less absenteeism and turnover, and fewer grievances. For the society, it's the full use of human resources, more effective organizations. So actually, for job enrichment, it still depends on the employees. Employees are the final judges of what enriches their jobs, on what motivates them for that one. All that the management can do is to gather the information on how to enrich jobs and try those changes within the job system. And it still depends on the employees if that changes really enrich them. And as we've mentioned earlier, it still depends on the employees if they find that the job enriches them. Because there are some of the employees that they like or they prefer simplicity as well as more routine jobs. So it's a case to case basis depending on the individuals. Okay, so now let's proceed to core dimensions, which is 5 dimensions. And this is developed by J. Richard Hackman and Greg Oldham. These dimensions affect the employee's psychological state, meaning this will improve this tends to improve their performance, satisfaction, quality of work, and it is also to reduce turnover and absenteeism. So the first of the five is skill variety. It allows employees to perform different operations that often require different skills. So this dimension also allows or gives employee greater sense of competence because they can perform different kinds of tasks in different ways. Next to it is the task identity. This allows employees to perform a complete piece of work. So, in the past, there are actually employees or individuals that work on very small part or specific part of a whole product. So they don't have the sense of responsibility or completion with regards to that achievement. When tasks are broadened to complete a certain kind of product, and it shows an identifiable part of it, like it won't work without that kind of part, then the task identity is being established. So yeah, it may not be the entire output. It just needs to be like an identifiable piece of work to complete that output. Next to it is task significance. Refers to the amount of impact as perceived by the worker that the work has on other people. So the key point here is that the workers should believe that they are doing something essential or important to the organization or to the society. So that's about it. The significance or importance of that task. Next to it is autonomy. Gives employees some discretion and control over job-related decisions, and it appears to be fundamental in building a sense of responsibility in workers. This autonomy is very important to many people because it gives them the degree of freedom with their decision or discretion regarding this job decisions. Lastly is feedback. It refers to information that tells workers how well they are performing. So it can come directly from the job itself, how they done their work, the feedback regarding that output or their performance. And it can be provided verbally by the management or by other employees. So um, it can actually be positive or negative depending on how it was done. It's best when it's appropriately balanced. Positive meaning there is an accomplishment or being proud to uh, to themselves because of that positive feedback, and for the negative, it's to push themselves harder or to improve themselves with their performance. So that's about it. Enrichment increases motivation. For this one, employees needs to be involved in this kind of assessment. Their perception are the most important because it will be based on their experience, on how they think, if that motivators are actually working. So after the data are collected, usually it is through surveys, an overall index for a job may be computed. So the index indicates the degree if which the job is perceived to be meaningful. It shows combination of variety, identity, and significance. The first three dimensions we talked on the previous slide, and then foster responsibility, the autonomy, and provide knowledge of results and feedback. And with the dimensions mentioned from the previous slide, managers or the organization can actually take action whether to increase one or more of this dimension or these factors. And for the enriched jobs, it usually increases the probability of high motivation, meaning, or it actually shows or provides that the employees have the adequate job knowledge and skills, or they're designed to learn, to grow, to develop individually, professionally, and personally, and if they are satisfied with their work environment. Okay, next is social cues affect perceptions. So let's start by defining what actually is social cues. So it is a form of communication that helps individuals read other people and how to react appropriately. It includes expressions, body language, tone of voice, personal space, or boundaries. So one explanation for the lack of predicted changes from enrichment lies in the presence of social cues, which are often rather subtle subtle bits of information workers receive from their social surroundings. So it may either social cues may either serve to support or to counteract the direction of objective task characteristics. Meaning the key to job enrichment actually lies how employees will use the social cues provided by their peers, their supervisors, the management to arrive at their own perception of their jobs. And actually, this is called social information processing, which it has three elements. First, peers may suggest which of the job characteristics really count to them. For example, a coworker says that she only likes the job characteristic that they have control or autonomy on this certain task. Next is may offer their personal model regarding the relative weighting of each core dimension. For example, a coworker says that they value greatly the skill variety and feedback because um, they they improve more or they are being motivated more with this kind of dimensions. The third element is peers may provide direct or indirect clues about their own judgments of the dimensions. So for this is actually most of this is being direct. So even though there are a lot of like very narrow to wider duties or responsibilities that is assigned to an individual, there are actually individuals that they don't think that their job is that important. That's the reason why they are feeling unmotivated, some sort of being direct or indirect clues with their perception or with their judgment. So an integrated approach to job design suggests that managers must focus on managing the social context of job changes as well as the objective job enrichment process itself. Lastly is contingency factors affecting enrichment. Job enrichment does not apply to all types of situation. As what I've mentioned earlier, it depends on the individual, on the employee. Some workers do not want increased responsibility. They want like very narrow job breadth. Other workers do not adapt to a group interaction that is sometimes required. We can take note that there are actually individuals that is a bit more introvert. Job enrichment also may upset pay relationships. In particular, employees may expect more than intrinsic satisfaction for the additional duties and responsibilities they assume. So by extrinsic, this may include like incentives, benefits, monetary monetary enrichments. So if if there are certain things within the organization that they've been provided additional work because there are actually circumstances that employees, if given additional work, request for additional pay. So it really depends on how we can balance this job enrichment so that, yes, it won't upset pay relationships as well. Because instead of motivating them, maybe there will be a time that they might feel burnouts because of wider variety of duties or work. So that's about it. Next is some limitations of job enrichment and QWL programs. So as mentioned earlier, some workers may not want enriched jobs if they are unable to tolerate increased responsibility, dislike more complex duties. Some like simple jobs, simple tasks. If they are uncomfortable with group work, dislike relearning, prefer security and stability, comfortable with supervisory authority, skills are not adaptable, they prefer to quit their jobs. And aside from that, expensive equipment may not be adaptable. Program may be unbalanced to production system. Supervisory or staff roles may be reduced. Enriched jobs may increase pay dissatisfaction. Costs may increase. For example, startup costs. For example, for training, if they'll be cross-trained, meaning in a certain team, they'll be transferred over or they'll be relearning another set of work or task. It may increase the costs for the training and as well as for the long-term costs for more equipment because if they'll be learning other things, then they'll be needing certain mediums or equipments for that specific skill or task. And unions may oppose some enrichment. As stated, to consider job enrichment as good is tempting, but to recognize and respect individual differences that exist among employees is more consistent with human values. The suggestion here or the key point here is to look for the balance and to test it gradually so that they can adjust certain conditions or certain enrichment for the job and for the quality of work life programs. So the next topic will be further discussed by Mr. Joshua Hinda.
And now, let us move forward to the last part of the presentation, which is the individual's responsibilities to organization. A discussion about individual in the organization is incomplete if it only tackles the organization's impositions on and obligations to the individual. The employment relationship is a two-way or reciprocal in nature, meaning both parties depend on one another. So without the question, the organization has responsibilities to the individual, and at the same time, the individual has responsibilities towards the organization. And each employee makes certain membership investment in the organization and expect profitable rewards in return. Same goes with the organization. Organization also invests to the individual and expects profitable rewards in return. So, what are the responsibilities of every individual in an organization? The first one is the organizational citizenship. By applying the social exchange idea, wherein individuals behave in a certain way, not just to establish trust and intimacy, but also to perform better and be a good organizational citizen of an organization. Individual or employee who are organizational citizens engage in a positive social acts designed to help, such as volunteering their efforts on special projects, sharing their time and resources, and proactively cooperating with others, even using their talents and energies fully in order to achieve its goals of efficiency and effectiveness. And now, the dues paying. A special case of individual responsibility to others occurs when employees are expected by their peers to pay their dues or put in their time and effort. Dues paying consists of the total cost that a person's group believes an individual should pay for the privilege of full acceptance and continuing membership in it, as well as the receipt of rewards. The total costs that are being mentioned here might include the minimum qualification of the employee, willingness to get one's hands dirty while not complaining about undesirable tasks, not acting superior to others, showing proper respect to others, performing at an above average level, and spending the appropriate amount of time in one's job. It is also said here that the idea of dues paid is based on the concept of idiosyncrasy credit. It is a concept in social psychology that describes an individual's capacity to acceptably deviate from group expectation. Therefore, the credits are increased each time an individual conforms to a group's expectations and decrease each time an individual deviates from a group's expectations. That is why the significance of dues lies in the importance of recognizing one's own obligations to others, both objective and subjective in nature. Another one is blowing the whistle on unethical behavior. Despite the best ethical codes and individual voices, unethical organizational behavior may still arise. And because of the unethical behavior of an organization, then the concept of whistleblowing might occur. Blowing the whistle is more formally known as making a disclosure in the public interest. Being a good organizational citizen does not extend to blind conformity, and it is important you can do something that you are protected from losing your job and or being victimized as a result of what have you uncovered in the public. Just like this example, disclosing alleged misconduct to an internal or external source. And for the last one would be the mutual trust. Mutual trust is a joint faith in the responsibility and actions of the parties involved, meaning it is a shared belief that individuals and also organizations can depend on each other to achieve a common purpose. And when it is present, each person has a strongly positive expectation that the other person will do the right thing. Development of mutual trust takes time through mutual understanding, but the presence of inappropriate word or action by either of the party, the previous level of mutual trust can be easily deteriorate or even be broken. And that is the end of this presentation. Thank you.